The sound of heels echoed down the hallway of a luxury apartment in Westwood, Los Angeles. Rachel Moreno, clutching a laptop and an untouched espresso, rushed down the spiral staircase of her two-story condo. "Mia, Milo! Where are your uniforms?" she shouted, while her eyes remained locked on the schedule on her screen. Her 3 children, Max, Mia, and Milo, were the center of her universe, but she managed them like a boardroom. On time, precise, and non-negotiable. As she entered the kitchen, the scent of toast and boiled eggs filled the space. On the granite island, 3 breakfast trays were laid out neatly, each napkin folded into a triangle, a rule she'd enforced since Max was in preschool. "Milo, eat with your hands again, and the iPad's gone for a week." "Max, your piano recital's in 3 days. Practice tonight. No games. Got it?" "Mia, your skirt is wrinkled. How many times do I have to tell you to use the steamer?" The kids nodded quietly. No one dared argue. Rachel sipped her espresso, then inspected each backpack before ushering them out the door to school. Everything had to be perfect, or at least look like it. Meanwhile, almost 400 kilometers away in a small town near Yosemite, the kitchen in Liam Carter's house was a whole different world. "If you eat that last bun, I'm taking your champorado, Louie." "That's not fair. I gave Lila the first bite." "Enough, enough. If you don't wash your face, Papa's banning you from the kitchen tomorrow." Liam, flour-stained apron on, cold coffee in hand, juggled flipping eggs, pouring milk, and looking for socks for Leo, Louie, and Lila, his chaotic but lovable triplets. Laughter echoed through the tiny kitchen. A stray cat named Pancake nibbled toast crumbs under the table. The fridge was covered in doodles and magnet notes. "Buy milk," "Parent-teacher meeting," "Lila's birthday," "Make flan." "Papa, I'm wearing mismatched socks." "That's fine. As long as you've got 2, it's a win. If we all survive the morning, Papa's winning life." Liam chuckled, scooping the youngest onto a chair and planting a kiss on their forehead. He didn't have much, but what he had was real joy in all the chaos. Across California, 2 parents, 2 worlds, seemingly opposite in every way. One ruled by order, control, and perfection. The other, warmth, mess, and flexibility. But neither of them knew. Fate was already piecing together the broken parts. And their story, and their children's, was just beginning. Cool wind rustled through the tall pines as 2 vans arrived from opposite directions at Sierra Nature Camp, a summer eco-leadership program for private school students in California. From a sleek silver van stepped down Max, Mia, and Milo, uniforms perfectly pressed, each rolling a suitcase with embroidered name tags. Mia immediately wrinkled her nose. There's mud on the path, probably full of germs." Max sighed. "As long as there's no piano, I'm fine." Milo muttered, "Hope no one talks too much." On the other side, tumbling out of an old white van, were Leo, Louie, and Lila, grass-stained shoes, worn-out backpacks, and an open bag of chips. "Last one to the tent has to do dishes," Louie yelled. "Hey, we're not even registered yet," Leo replied. "Lila, you've got the list." Lila held up a wrinkled paper and let the wind take it. A camp counselor sighed, holding up a board. Group A to the right, Group B to the left. But this wasn't going to be a typical group division. At the tent assignment area, the 6 kids from 2 different families began staring at each other, not with curiosity, with something deeper, recognition. Max squinted at Leo. "Wait, that kid looks like me?" Leo frowned back. "Why does that dude look like Louie? Premium edition?" Milo and Louie, without a word, both pulled up their socks when they noticed the other doing the same. Mia stared at Lila from across the field. Same hair tie, same ponytail, same color scrunchie. Lila broke the silence first. "What's your name?" "Mia." "I'm Lila. When's your birthday?" "May 12th. Same here. Wait, what? All 6 froze. One by one, they repeated, "My birthday is also May 12th. No one spoke, but their wide eyes, confused, stunned, and somehow thrilled, said everything. At lunch, the campers were seated randomly. Coincidentally, or fatefully, the 6 ended up at the same table. No one ate. They just stared. Max. "You're left-handed?" Leo. "Yeah, you too?" Mia pointed to a mole under Lila's ear. "I have one there." Lila pulled her collar down. "Me too." Milo bluntly said, "This is weird." Louis nodded. "Super weird, like sextuplets," Max whispered. Silence. Then all of them whispered back, "No way." Or maybe? Are we actually? The confusion in the hearts of the children grew. As the afternoon light turned golden, the camp director made an announcement. "Today, you'll participate in mixed group activities." The 6 kids, of course, were assigned together. Like destiny had drawn the lines. Leo raised his hand like a commander. "If we're siblings, we need to investigate. And if it's true, I want to know why we were split." Lila, dead serious. "But first," Louis looked up. "Did anyone see the cookies?" The kids burst into laughter. They didn't know what lay ahead. But deep down, they knew this wasn't just any summer camp. But just as their friendship began to bloom, something unexpected happened. All 6 children mysteriously disappeared from the campsite, forcing 2 people who were once a family to confront the past they'd spent years trying to forget. The police chief sighed as 2 parents barged into the station at the same time, voices oddly synchronized. "I'm here to report my kid's missing." "Me too." Rachel Moreno, white blouse wrinkled, clutching a tablet showing photos of Max, Mia, and Milo, angry and terrified. Liam Carter, in a faded checkered shirt, arms scraped from falling while searching for Leo, Louis, and Lila. The moment they faced each other, time seemed to pause. "Rachel," Liam exhaled her name. "You," Rachel choked. "Liam." No need for introductions. This wasn't a reunion. This was 2 people who had once loved, once shared a home, once shared a bed, and who had also once split their children in half during a painful divorce. "What are you doing here? What do you think? You think I'm on vacation? I don't need you telling me how to be a mother. And I don't need you drawing charts on how to be a father." A desk officer had to bang the table to stop the growing storm. After fingerprint checks, photo matches, and medical record reviews, the police delivered a shocking conclusion. All 6 children shared biological identifiers. They were sextuplets. Rachel and Liam froze. Emotions swelled, memories of pregnancy, the first cries of their newborns. And then, the horrific split. "You said you'd only take 3. And you said you could handle the rest. So we split the kids like we were dividing furniture. I thought it would be easier for everyone. For you, maybe." Neither noticed the tear slipping down Mia's cheek as she stood by the door, watching her parents hurl years of silence at each other. Rachel went silent. She stepped outside the room, standing in the hallway, still clutching her tablet like a shield. Liam followed. No yelling now. Just a low, hoarse voice. "I don't blame you for raising them alone, but we should have done it together. No splitting the kids, no splitting the responsibility, no splitting the love." Rachel bit her lip. She didn't reply because deep down, she knew he was right. She whispered, "So what now?" Liam looked at her. "Now, we tell the kids the truth." That night, 6 children sat in a circle inside a temporary cabin. Each held a cup of hot cocoa, but no one sipped. Rachel and Liam entered. No longer opponents, now 2 adults learning how to parent again, together. "We have something to tell you," Rachel began, her voice trembling. Liam continued, "We used to be a family, and you're sextuplets." Silence. Then Louis jumped up. "So, We're really siblings? And we were split up? Lila asked. Because you two fought? Max whispered. Rachel's voice cracked. We were wrong. Mia set her cup down, pulling Milo and Lila closer. Milo looked up at Rachel and for the first time called her, Mom, I don't know what happens next, but if we can, we want to stay together. All of us. Rachel looked at their faces, so alike, so familiar, and the years lost stung deeply. She turned to Liam. He nodded. We're starting over, she said. Together. Liam smiled. For the first time in years. The ocean breeze drifted through the sheer curtains of the old beach house in Monterey. Early summer days passed quietly, as if time itself was slowing down to make room for a family, learning how to piece itself back together. Rachel sat alone at the dining table, her laptop open with a spreadsheet of school applications. Next to it, a stack of documents. Birth certificates, vaccination records, transfer forms for the 3 children she had believed, without question, were biologically hers. But as she flipped through the familiar papers, a small detail stopped her breath. The doctor listed on Max's birth certificate wasn't right. Rachel blinked and checked again. And again. She remembered clearly who had delivered her babies. It was Dr. Emily Crane, who had monitored her pregnancy through the last 6 months. But Max's certificate listed Dr. Harold Jensen, a name she had never heard before. She quickly pulled out Mia's and Milo's records. Everything checked out. Only Max's was off. Her heart began to race, but her mind tried to stay calm. Maybe it was a clerical error, a small mistake. But a mother's instinct doesn't ignore what her heart screams. Rachel contacted the hospital, called past staff, and even dug through archived emails from a decade ago. She became obsessed, and yet, deep down, she feared what she might find. 2 days later, she made the decision to quietly take Max for a DNA test, without telling Liam, without telling Max, and without admitting to herself what she feared the most. But when the results arrived, her last hope vanished. Max was not biologically her or Liam's child. She stood frozen in the kitchen, her hands shaking as she stared at the numbers and the cold final words on the paper. Max, the child she had cradled through fevers, soothed to sleep, taught to spell, to count, to play piano, was not her son by blood. Liam walked into the kitchen and saw Rachel's pale face. He stopped in his tracks. What happened? Are you okay? She looked up, her voice barely audible. Max isn't our biological son. He went still. Someone swapped our baby at the hospital, Rachel said, each word cutting deeper than the last. Liam sank into the chair, running his hands through his hair, whispering, Oh God, so where's our real child? Where's the baby we lost? Rachel didn't know, but she swore she would find out. Over the next few days, Rachel turned into a one-woman investigation unit. She chased down every lead, cross-referenced delivery records, and analyzed hospital logs. Then one name began to appear again and again, Angelica DeWitt, a single mother admitted the same day as Rachel, but who never took a child home. A record from St. Beatrice Children's Home in Fresno noted, a newborn abandoned on the same date Rachel gave birth. No name, no papers. The staff had given him a temporary name, Lucas. Rachel's heart clenched so tightly she could hardly breathe. The next day, she and Liam drove 4 hours to Fresno. The rusted gates of the children's home creaked open with a long, aching groan. The grounds were quiet, too quiet. An elderly nun came to greet them, her eyes kind but weary. Lucas is a special boy, she said softly. Very bright, loves to paint, but he doesn't seem to believe anyone will choose him anymore. They followed her to the back courtyard, where a boy sat alone, painting with watercolors on the cracked concrete. His curly hair was tousled, his face lean, his eyes focused. But the moment Rachel saw him, her breath caught in her chest. That face, those eyes, that nose. She didn't need a test to know. He was hers. "Hi there," Rachel said gently, crouching beside him, her voice trembling. Lucas didn't respond. "What are you painting?" Liam asked from behind. "The sky," Lucas replied quietly. "For my mom. I don't remember her face, so I made one up." Rachel's heart shattered in silence. Years of sorrow and confusion erupted in a single, innocent sentence. "Lucas, Mommy's here now," she whispered. The boy looked up and stared at her. His eyes were calm, but distant, guarded. "I don't know you. I don't want a new mom," Lucas said flatly, and turned his head away. Rachel tried to smile, but her tears had already fallen. She didn't blame him. She understood. This child had learned not to hope, had been passed over too many times to trust anyone's promises. His heart had built its own armor. Liam placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "He needs time." On the drive back, Rachel said nothing. Her hands held tight to a copy of Lucas's painting, the one he'd left behind on the bench. It showed a house with 7 candles, but in the middle, there was a blank space, untouched. "We're bringing him home," she said at last. "No matter how long it takes, he's part of our family." Lucas moved in with his siblings on a quiet, rainy afternoon. The raindrops tapping on the car roof sounded like a gentle warning. Something new was beginning, but it felt fragile. Rachel stood on the porch, watching the boy step out of the car with an old, worn-out backpack. There was no luggage, no stuffed animals, no books, no pictures. Just a single drawing of a house and a sky, rolled up and tied with a rubber band. "Your room's upstairs, next to Max's," Rachel said, trying to offer a soft smile. Lucas didn't look at her. He gave a small nod and walked straight up the stairs. Dinner that night was a mixture of nerves and silence. The whole family sat around the long wooden table, spoons and forks clinking softly. Lucas took the seat at the far end, near the window. Max tried to smile. "I liked your drawing of the house." Lucas replied flatly, "Not yours, it's mine." The silence returned. Rachel placed her hands in her lap, quietly swallowing the sting in her chest. She didn't push him to eat. She didn't push him to smile. Because she knew, love is not something you force. It's something that has to be felt. And sometimes, broken children need time to believe. The first few weeks passed like walking on a tightrope. Lucas didn't talk much. He ate alone, slept with the door locked, and never started conversations. Most days he sat in the backyard drawing for hours, needing no company. Rachel worked to keep things steady. She didn't pry, didn't demand. Every morning she placed a cup of hot cocoa outside his door. The first time it was untouched. The second, half empty. By the third week, the cup was returned, empty and rinsed, left neatly on the windowsill. That was Lucas saying, "I'm listening." One night, during a heavy rainstorm, Lucas quietly opened his door and came downstairs. Rachel was reading. Max was playing the piano softly. Lucas said nothing. He stood for a while. Then, without a word, he sat on the floor and leaned back against the sofa, eyes closed. Rachel didn't ask why. She simply got up, took a light blanket, and gently draped it over his shoulders. That night, Lucas fell asleep on the rug, for the first time not locked away behind a door. And for the first time, Rachel saw him sleeping peacefully. One morning, Lucas painted a new picture. In it was a large tree with 7 children beneath its shade. No more blank spaces. On the highest branch was a wooden sign that read, "Our Home." Rachel stared at the painting, speechless. She knelt beside Lucas, gently took his hand, and asked, "Do you really want to stay?" Lucas didn't answer right away, but he turned to her, his eyes quietly shimmering. "As long as you don't leave me." Rachel didn't answer right away. She simply moved closer, sat beside him, and wrapped her arms gently around his shoulders. "You can be angry, you can be quiet, you can shut the world out, but I'll still be here. I'm not going anywhere." Lucas clutched her hand, and then the tears came, one by one, slowly, without sobs, without noise. But it was the first time his heart broke open in the arms of someone who truly felt like home. They weren't just tears, they were a turning point. For the first time, Lucas allowed himself to feel love, and be loved in return. She moved closer, sat beside him, and wrapped her arms gently around his shoulders. "You can be angry, you can be quiet, you can shut the world out, but I'll still be here. I'm not going anywhere." Lucas clutched her hand, and then the tears came, one by one, slowly, without sobs, without noise. But it was the first time his heart broke open in the arms of someone who truly felt like home. They weren't just tears, they were a turning point. For the first time, Lucas allowed himself to feel love and be loved in return. Love doesn't arrive with applause or grand promises. It comes when we choose to stay, even when someone closes the door. It comes through a cup of hot cocoa, a soft blanket, and a patient gaze. And finally, that small heart opened its door. Summer drifted by in the quiet gentleness of a family learning how to exist together. No more shouting, no more cold silence between bedroom doors, no more wary glances from Lucas or Rachel's stiff, uncertain hands as she reached out to her son. Now, each morning, Rachel made 7 cups of hot cocoa, not one left outside Lucas's door anymore, but one placed directly at the table, right beside his chair. Liam got up early to make breakfast, usually pancakes, Lucas's favorite, though he had never dared to ask for it before. Max helped Mia pack her school bag, while Milo and Louie always argued over who would take out the trash. Lila taped a giant paper on the fridge that read, "Family schedule, no skipping game time." These little things, seemingly trivial, were becoming the bricks of a real home. One afternoon, when an unexpected rain rolled in, all the kids gathered in the living room to play Ludo. Lucas sat in the middle, choosing the green tokens by himself for the first time, without waiting to be offered. He laughed when Louie cheated, shouted when Max got knocked out, and gave up his turn for Lila without being told. Rachel watched from across the room, holding a book she couldn't read a single line of. Her heart was full of joy, gratitude, and an aching sorrow for the years lost in separation. Liam placed a hand on her shoulder. He said nothing, but his look told her everything. They were finally on the right path. That evening, the 6 kids dragged Lucas to the center of the circle, insisting he read The Little Prince out loud. He hesitated, his voice stumbled, but no one laughed. Milo adjusted the mic volume. Mia sat beside him, quietly holding his hand when it began to shake. And when Lucas read the line, "You become responsible forever for what you have tamed," a hush fell over the room. Lucas paused. Then he smiled, for the first time, a smile with no walls. One early autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn soft shades of gold, Rachel and Liam sat on the back porch, each holding a mug of warm tea. The kids were asleep. The house was wrapped in a rare kind of quiet. Neither of them spoke for a few minutes. Only the sound of crickets filled the air, and the glow of the kitchen light flickered softly through the window behind them. Then Rachel finally said, "Do you ever wonder, if we hadn't split up, would things have been different?" Liam stared into his mug, quiet for a moment, then replied, "Maybe different, but not necessarily better." Rachel gave a soft chuckle. Not bitter, just a quiet, knowing laugh. "I used to think that if I tried hard enough, I could be both mom and dad at once." And I thought if I stayed funny and easygoing, the kids wouldn't need rules or structure." They both laughed, this time genuinely, like two old friends sharing an old, well-worn memory. Since Lucas came home, Rachel and Liam had stopped fighting. Instead of blaming, they started listening. Instead of interrupting, they let each other finish. And instead of avoiding each other, they began showing up, together, for parent-teacher meetings, school plays, doctor visits, or even just baking cookies with the kids on weekends. It wasn't always perfect. There were still tired days, calendar conflicts, or small miscommunications. But unlike before, this time, no one walked away or shut down. Rachel started to see Liam not as the ex-husband she once resented, but as a partner, someone who cared just as much about the kids' fevers, their test scores, their tearful hugs after a rough day. And Liam began to see Rachel differently too, not as the woman obsessed with perfection, but as a mother who never gave up, even when she felt like she was failing. One night, when Lucas woke up crying from a nightmare, both Rachel and Liam got up at the same time, rushing into his room. Rachel wrapped Lucas in her arms. Liam brought a towel and a glass of water. There was no question of who should do what. No snapping, no stepping back. Just two people who had once lost each other, now choosing to hold on to what mattered most. They didn't get back together, but they stood on the same side, and sometimes that alone is enough to call something a family. It was a quiet evening, long after all 7 children had fallen asleep. Rachel stepped out onto the back porch. A soft breeze rustled the wooden roof overhead. Liam was crouched beside the old air conditioning unit, trying to fix the buzzing that had been bothering them for 3 days. She watched for a moment, then sat down on the steps next to him. "It's late. You don't have to do that right now," she said. Liam smirked without looking up. "If I don't fix it, you'll call a technician, and technicians are expensive." Rachel let out a small laugh. A real one, free from the weight of old wounds or defenses. There was a brief silence, then she spoke again. "Back then, I thought I was so strong." Liam paused. He didn't look at her, but he listened. "I thought I could handle everything, being pregnant alone, giving birth, staying up all night, working and mothering at the same time." "I thought you were strong too," Liam said gently. "You really were." Rachel nodded slightly, her gaze drifting toward the swaying shadows of the trees. "But the truth is, I was scared. I was scared that if I ever showed weakness, I'd be left behind." Her voice caught in her throat. "I didn't need you to fix me, Liam. I just needed you to stay." This time, Liam looked up. There was nothing in his eyes but softness. "I know," he said. "I wish I'd been brave enough to stay, and to say everything I wanted to say." Rachel turned to face him. "What did you want to say?" Liam slowly put down the screwdriver and exhaled. "I was going to propose right after the birth, but then you looked tired, distant. I thought maybe you didn't need me anymore." A breeze passed between them. Rachel clenched her fingers in her lap. "I never needed a diamond ring. I never needed a promise. I just needed you beside me when I was at my weakest." They sat there together, not saying anything more. They didn't need to. In that quiet moment, everything left unspoken had finally been heard. Rachel didn't blame Liam, and Liam didn't blame her. They had made mistakes, missed chances, stayed silent when they should have spoken. But now, they were learning how to trust again, in a softer, more grown-up way. No new love story began, but something even more important took root. A friendship between two people who had once hurt each other, now choosing to be partners in raising the children they both loved. The autumn afternoon passed with a strange kind of peace. The late sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden warmth across the living room. The kids had just returned from school, their laughter and the scuffle of shoes echoing in the kitchen. But Rachel and Liam weren't laughing. They sat quietly in the living room, across from each other on the couch, their hands loosely intertwined. On the table between them was a white envelope, its corners slightly wrinkled. The DNA results for Max, the boy they had raised for 10 years, without knowing he wasn't their biological child. "Are you sure?" Liam asked, his voice low. Rachel nodded slowly. "He deserves to hear it from us, not from someone else, not later, when he's old enough to feel betrayed." She looked into his eyes. There was no more hesitation, only love and a quiet resolve. She couldn't sleep. She kept staring at Max's baby photos, each smile, each laugh, now blurred by a truth she didn't ask for. But one thing stayed clear. Love. That was her son. No paper could ever change that. And that's why, the next afternoon, they called Max in. When Max walked into the room, still in his school uniform, holding a bag of cookies. "You called me?" he asked, settling between them with curious eyes. Liam pressed his lips together. Rachel picked up the envelope, her hand trembling slightly, though her gaze remained steady. "Max, there's something really important we want to talk to you about." Max set the cookie bag down, eyebrows furrowing. "What is it?" Liam moved closer, placing a hand gently on his son's shoulder. "Do you remember we told you about a few complications at the hospital when you were born?" Max nodded. "You said I came a week early." Rachel handed him the envelope. "We ran a DNA test and, Max, you're not our biological child." The room fell silent. Time seemed to hold its breath. Max looked down at the envelope, then up at his parents. His eyes widened, blinking slowly. His breath caught in his throat. His lips pressed into a line, like he was trying to contain the sudden wave of confusion crashing over him. Rachel bowed her head, her voice shaking. "I'm sorry. I know this is hard to believe, hard to accept, but it doesn't change anything." Liam added, his eyes glossy. "You're still our son. Every school drop-off, every bedtime, every scraped knee, every laugh, it's all real." Max sat still, his fists clenched on his knees. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then suddenly, he launched himself into their arms, burying his face into Rachel's shoulder. "I don't care who gave birth to me," Max choked out. "My parents are the two people sitting in front of me." Rachel broke down, clutching her son tightly. Her tears mixed gratitude, relief, and a sorrow that had waited too long to be spoken. Liam wrapped his arms around them both. In that moment, there was no DNA, no biology. Just a family, held together by love. At the doorway, Lucas had been watching quietly. He had heard everything. A moment later, he stepped into the room, eyes focused on Rachel. There was hesitation in his steps, but then his voice came, soft yet clear. "Mom." Just one word, but it broke through every wall between them. Rachel turned, her face still damp with tears. She opened her arms, and Lucas stepped into them, hugging her as if he had been waiting for this all his life. 1 week later, the kids announced a backyard party to celebrate Lucas finishing his first 10 books. Rachel and Liam didn't question it. They baked, set up the backyard, and laughed at the kids' dramatic decorating efforts. When it came time for gift-giving, Lila stepped forward, holding a small box wrapped in green paper, Lucas's favorite color. "Mom," Lila grinned, "on behalf of all of us, this is for you." Rachel opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring. Before she could react, Liam dropped to one knee. "Once I wasn't brave enough. The second time, I came too late. But this time, if there's still room for me, not just in your heart, but in the sleepless nights, the school plays, the broken crayons, will you marry me again?" The backyard erupted in cheers. Milo jumped up and down. Mia covered her mouth in giddy laughter. Lucas squeezed Max's hand tightly. Every eye was on her. Rachel looked around, at the children, at the man who had walked through fire beside her, at the house that once held pain, and now, healing. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I will. This wasn't a fairy tale, just a family, choosing each other again, refusing to let go again. And this time, it was forever. Sometimes love isn't about the perfect beginning. It's about who stays after the storm. Rachel didn't choose to be a mother of 6. She didn't choose to be abandoned, but she chose to fight. She chose to forgive. And in the end, she chose to rebuild a family, one quiet moment at a time. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us, do you believe in second chances, even after being left behind? We'd love to hear your thoughts below. Until next time, take care of your heart. And remember, sometimes the ones who leave find their way back.